There we go. Great. Well, the SAFE program is based on 15 years worth of longitudinal epidemiologic data where we translated protective parenting processes as well as protective youth processes into a curriculum. And this kind of type 1 translation is really hard work. And it's got, it involves just 14 hours of prevention programming. And 14 hours of prevention programming produced the following results. Well, first let me tell you about the trial. The trial involved 641 families. They were 11 years old, and they were randomly assigned to the SAFE condition or a control condition where the families got information about developmental aspects of early adolescence. People were pre-tested, post-tested. We're still following the families. There's longitudinal follow-ups at 18 months post-pre-test, 24 months post-pre-test, 52 months post-pre-test, 63 months post-pre-test, and we just finished another wave of data, 75 months post-pre-test. Again, all of our data collection is done in the home. Here's some 2-year efficacy findings. By 2-year efficacy findings, I mean this is data 2 years after the end of prevention programming. So the first thing we looked at is, did we deter the initiation of alcohol use? So 2 years after prevention programming ended, 29% of the control kids and 19% of the SAFE youth began to consume alcohol. In terms of escalation of youth use over these 2 years, participation in SAFE deterred increased alcohol use over that period of time. After 5 years, SAFE continued to show fairly strong levels of efficacy, such that youth who were randomly assigned in SAFE 5 years after participation in the prevention programming, over time they are using or drinking less alcohol. Which brings us to see whether participation in SAFE or participation in a preventative intervention has protective effects against a genetic diathesis. So here's our hypothesis. The first hypothesis, and some of this is going to sound familiar from the first study, youth with 1 or 2 copies of the short allele, and again that's the one that confers risk, who are randomly assigned to the control condition, will show greater initiation of risk behavior across 29 months, which is the time frame between the pre-test and 2-year long-term follow-up. Then will youth with 1 or 2 copies of the short allele that confers risk assigned to the SAFE condition, or youth with non-risk genotypes assigned to either condition. The youth reported on their involvement or whether they had initiated alcohol use, marijuana use, or sexual intercourse ever. We also obtained data on their past month, last 30-day engagement or use of alcohol, marijuana, or involvement in sexual intercourse. Again, we use the origin assessment, the origin collection procedure, I should say, to collect DNA. Here's how the sample kind of fell out. 41% of the youth, which is typical for Caucasian samples, by the way, are carrying around 1 or 2 copies of the short allele which confer risk. And something to think about, and I think people don't often think about this, many of us in populations carry around risk alleles. 41% of this population are carrying this around, similar to Caucasian populations, but relatively few of us, have problems with a lot of substance use dependence or psychopathology. And why is that? Well, there's other things going on in people's lives which may be protective against that, and we often don't think about that. So our plan of analysis was we used an intent to treat analysis, meaning everyone was included in the data analysis no matter how many prevention sessions they went to. Again, we used latent growth modeling, and then we used plan group comparisons to test hypothesis 2. So the results for the latent growth modeling for